Hello and welcome to Mad Owl Goes Racing, or more to the point, it goes driving slowly around circuits probably, but I thought today we'll have a look at the Assetto Corsa Competition British Pack, which has just landed, which has got 3 additional circuits in the UK, namely Donington Park, Oulton Park and Snetterton. And I'll start off by having a bit of a plod round Donington. So as you'll notice up here, you've got a new thing for British Championship. You can run the British Championship as an individual championship, and it has different bop for the British circuits when you run them as part of that championship to if you're in multiplayer and you're around the same track. So it's got 2 different bops depending upon which series you're in, which is quite interesting, but that only applies to the shared circuits, so that's Silverstone, Brands Hatch and somewhere else. Spa? Yeah, I think it was Spa. Spa being in the UK, of course. Maybe not. Right, Donington Park. Interesting circuit. It's been around for a while. I'm bloody hell, there's my voice already. I'm going to have a little run round in the Ginetta, and hopefully my voice will last the distance on this. Now, I think we'll just have a gentle drive round from the behind the car a bit to start with. I'm not worrying too much about tyre pressures. Now, Donington's been around for a while, 1931. It was first proposed as a circuit. It's in the grounds of Donington Hall, and what happened was somebody decided they want a racetrack, and what they did was they went to Donington Hall, had a look around, found some nice sort of tracks around Donington, joined them up with little bits of dirt road and made a circuit out of it, which was used for a couple of years for motorcycle racing before they ended up tarmacking it in, I think it was 1934. Layout was very similar, but not quite the same. A few differences for the initial layout. This sort of initial Hollywood, was it Hollywood, and then down Craner. Much the same until you get to the old hairpin down here, which was slightly further back that way, I believe, and then was tighter, so it was close, probably 90 degrees or maybe a little bit more. And the run through after the hairpin was actually, instead of going around the end of these bridges, actually went through, I think, the left hand one of those 3. If you have a look on, I will put a link in for a place that's got lots of information about the track as it was and as it is over the years. And you can see, I think this is where it came out originally, and this bend was a lot sharper. Then you went up to Starkey's. Is it Starkey's? Or if I just click over here somewhere, I think I've got a track map up here. Can I? I do hate the way it does this. Why can't I see the damn track map? What have I done? I've got a track map up there, just to save me going, it's that one. Now, this is Schwantz Curve, followed by McLean's. Now, McLean's was, I think, slightly further up and slightly more 90 degree type corner. God, my bloody voice is getting worse. And the straight down here to Coppice was considerably longer. Went off into where the trees are, hence Coppice presumably, and then there was a 90 degree bend, then another little bend to come back for a bit of a straight, which eventually joined back up with a bit of a chicane in it to go back to where the current start finish line is. No, it didn't, I tell a lie. It had, sorry, it was more over to the left, and then Redgate corner was actually further back this way. So there was a bit of a kink, and then short straight, Redgate, which is a much more 90-degree corner, and then Redgate Hall, I think it was called, which is where Redgate currently is, but it was nowhere near as sharp. And then in 34, I think it was, they extended the circuit, so it had a loop along here, and you ended up with a loop probably in much the same place as this current one is. Might have been a bit further along, with a hairpin. Then he'd come back, and I think it actually was a bit further down that way, can't think of it, and it still had Redgate, but Redgate went off sort of there. I think it was probably sort of here somewhere. It was a sharpish 90-degree left-hand bend that then went up to Redgate Hall. So it's had a few changes. Then in 37, I think it was, they extended the loop, and you can actually still see, if you go sort of into the big wide world on somewhere like Google Maps or Bing Maps, if you look down the bottom there where the car park is, you can actually see where the tarmac used to be for the old Melbourne hairpin. So we'll get on board, and if I can select the right sort of normal one. Right, this is the current Redgate. Donington's been buggered about quite a bit over the years. In 2010 they did try to make it into a Formula 1 Grand Prix venue and totally screwed the circuit up, but we'll leave that in the history books. You can read all about it in several places. Now, Redgate, it's a little bit of a brow, so you might find the back end of the car drops out a bit as you're coming out of there. Kind of curves, downhill with various degrees of downhilledness. As you come down, you'll find you start to sort of get a bit of a drift on it if you're not careful. This is slightly positively cambered, then it's sort of, I'm never sure if this is cambered or not, or whether it's flat, but because it's downhill you're going to be losing the front end potentially, more on a motorcycle than a car. But again, the old hairpin is a bit of a tricky bastard. You want to take as much as you can on the inside. If you're too wide going in there too late, you will just disappear off into the boondocks over there. This corner, which is, what is it? I can't remember what it's called now. Starkey's. Yeah, that's Starkey, isn't it? It's basically, you can take that, come out to the curb here, and then through Schwantz curve, and you can basically take it all as one fairly long curve, at speed, of course. Brake, stay right. Again, we've got one of these nice little corners that is over a little bit of a crest, and as you come over there you might find the back end is quite easy to lose coming out of there. Plenty of curb to run off on. This is possibly one of the hardest corners on the course because very much blind, got to work out where you're going to turn in. You want to turn in just over the brow. The corner itself is fairly flat, but I think it does drop slightly downhill as you're coming through this bit, which is McLean's, and again you can have the back end going out. Note the planes, you'll see one of them every minute or so, in game as well as in real life, because there's East Midlands Airport is literally the other side of the track back there. Then we come down to Foggy S's, which before 2010, when they tried to bollocks the circuit up for this Formula 1 bid, this was actually a lot tighter. You'd actually end up going much more in, you'll see it on the exit back here. It was more over here somewhere, so it would have been more over there. Much sharper. They've tightened, they've opened it up quite a bit, so it's a lot easier than it would have been. If you'd have probably go back to some of the older titles pre 2010 that had Donington in them, you'll find that that is a much tighter chicane and more of a pain in the arse to get out of. This bit of a dodgy braking zone, downhill of course. Anytime you're braking downhill there's always a bit dodgy, you have to brake a little bit earlier than you think. Tight little hairpin. Not too bad on the exit, you're starting to go uphill. The uphill section's a little bit interesting, trying to work out where you're going to brake. probably sort of here-ish, and you can't really see the corner at all until you're on top of it. So it's one of those you need to get used to where it is. Again, you're a little bit off camber as you come out, so the back end will start to go. Then we'll start to give it a little bit more speed for a couple of laps and see how we get on. The first corner, you can run into the pit lane a bit. It's really frowned upon, depending upon who you're talking to. Some people say you've got to, some people say you shouldn't, some people say it's bloody dangerous, and some people say, yeah, whatever. So, if you can get away with it, get away with it. If you can't, don't. I know for a fact they said there are some slightly different regs on track limits on the British circuits. The British GT have a slightly more black and white view of what is track limits, and it's basically 2 tyres on the circuit at all times. On the circuit means the inside the white line, so as long as you've got 2 tyres inside the white line you should be fine, but as far as I'm concerned that should be the rule anyway, so that's perfectly legal. Any further over and you're out, whereas you get away with it on as long as you're on the curb. In the international GT series. I mean, if you've ever watched a race at Misano, you see there are all 4 wheels on the bloody curb at times. So, as you can see, there's lots of little places with. It's not particularly hilly. It's just it's got little undulations in interesting places that make certain places a bit dodgy for turn in or exit or mid corner. So, an interesting circuit. Well, I forgot to put any. It's quite easy to brake yourself, even going slowly, especially if you're not paying attention. I forgot to put any extra pressure on the tyres, so they're going to be a mile under pressure, but we'll see if we can get a little bit quicker lap in. Obviously, if you're going for a big lap, you can take a nice wide line and get on the power nice and early. Like I said, make use of the extra round here, brake sort of somewhere there, usually 3rd, maybe 2nd. As you can see, it does feel like it's going a little bit downhill, therefore off camber coming out of there. Hug the curb a bit here. That again can feel a little bit off camber. That's a very tricky little corner, Oulton, the old hairpin. It's quite easy to run wide coming out of there. Front end definitely feels like it's got bugger all grip at the moment. Here you'll probably find yourself running a little bit wide out of there, but again you can make use of a generous curb. Again, there's plenty of curb to play with on the outside here, but it's quite easy to run off on the outside around there, so if you've ever been around Donington at all, you will know that. Not too late on the brakes because you want to carry speed in and through here. Get away with as much curve as you can on both sides. You can pick the throttle up really early coming through there, so you'll be on the throttle as soon as you can coming through the hairpin. Again, it's fairly easy around the hairpin, but picking your braking and turning point here is a nightmare, and the amount of times I run that grass on the inside. Make use of the curb on the outside. Again, there's a little bit of off camber coming out there, but you should be able to go at least 3 seconds a lap faster than that probably without trying too hard, especially if you had some air on the tyres. But that's enough for Donington. I think what I might actually just see if I can do is we'll just hit F7 and see if I can go over here somewhere. Where's the track gone? Right, there's the current Melbourne hairpin. The track used to go off over here, and you can see it went across here and then up here, and this here, round about here, is where the old Melbourne hairpin used to be, and then it came back up here and then sort of squared up here and then about where would it have been? Probably here somewhere. Am I too far over yet? Struggling to work out where I am. Whoop, gone too far. Would have been about back here somewhere actually. About here probably. Would have been where Redgate was. And then came across here, and this was Redgate Hall. And down Craner. Old Hairpin would have been about here somewhere probably. And then you can actually see where, I believe it was through the left hand arch it went, and then came out here, and again this was a bit more over here, much squarer corner. And again, Cops was sort of here-ish, and then it was a 90-degree bend, came over here, and then the straight as it was, although it wasn't actually straight, sort of meandered across here a bit. And then originally there was a sort of a zigzag S's that joined up again, sort of over here somewhere. On the newer version, the 1930s 6 or whatever it was, shot over here. So it was an interesting circuit. Like I say, I'll put a link to, what is it, Racing Circuits Info, and you can have a look at the different layouts. Quite interesting history. Next we'll go to Oulton Park, which was like Donington Park, purpose built. There's a lot of the circuits in the UK were actually based on airfields, so Silverstone was, Thruxton is, Snetterton, there's about 3 or 4. There's a couple of others, which my brain's going on. I'm not going to tell you at the moment. So, again, won't worry too much about. Green light, show them what you got. See that button. We'll have a look round first. In terms of quality, they're all pretty nice. As you'd expect, they're possibly not as detailed as some other sims and or games that have featured the same circuits in the past. Some of the surrounds are a little bit less detailed, some of the infield stuff is a little less detailed, but you wouldn't normally see it, so it's only us pedants who go around and have a look at it. Right, first thing you'll notice about Oulton when you drive it is, fuck me, it's bumpy. And it really is. Ups and downs, undulations everywhere. Don't know when it was last resurfaced, but it's been patched and sorted out over the years. Oulton Park, originally developed in 1953 as a purpose-built circuit. The first circuit was a bit like, if you've ever driven the short circuit, Foster's. It was a shorter circuit, and it actually went off here and went across that way. You can just about see where the road goes. Joined up just before Clay Hill, which we'll get to a bit further out. It didn't take them very long to decide they wanted to extend the circuit, so they came round here and added this little extra loop on. So, nice lake over there. And if I just, if you excuse me a minute whilst I go and remind myself all the bloody names again. Yeah, this is actually called Lakeside. Imaginatively. But you come along here, and again, it is very bumpy. You'll also notice it's not exactly the widest piece of circuit in the world, and you'll find that of all the British tracks, with the exception of Silverstone probably, they're not particularly wide, and the reason for that is quite simple. They're quite old, and cars didn't used to be particularly big. Now, this is the first hairpin they added, Island hairpin, Island Bend. I don't know if it's actually got a name, because this up here is actually Island Bend, but they added this, and then it wasn't very much long after that they decided to add another extension, So round Island Bend, and you end up at the Shell Oils corner, which is an amazing corner. It's I've been having a look and I can't find a quick and dirty place to tell me quite how banked this corner is. You can turn in and you can hold an enormous amount of speed around here because it's banked. It is also rough as guts, as you can probably tell from my steering wheel, even at slow speed, banging about all over the place. In 1954, whenever they did it, they had the circuit more or less as it is now, but without these two chicanes. I think it was 54. They added... oh no, got that wrong. 74, in fact, they added this chicane, which is Folkestone chicane. It's also known as a Britain chicane, if I remember rightly. Both of those are people who were associated with the circuit over the years. Folkestone, I think it was him that bought it in, his organisation bought it in 1974, I think, whenever it was. And then, was it John Britton, with something to do with the Motorsport Vision, who are the current owners. He died, it was a cancer in 2006 or something, so... As you can see, is the chicanes were put in basically to slow down. To be honest, I don't know why they put that one in, because it doesn't actually make a huge amount of difference, although you are losing quite a bit. But it's really this one that's the saving grace for the next corner, because Hislop's chicane, as this is known, is going to slow you down a lot coming into this bend, which is, get it right, this is Knickerbrook. And if you play a game that's got the old original fast balls out version, that's a scary corner, Knickerbrook. So basically it's a bit tighter than it used to be because of the chicane now, so you're actually coming at it from a slightly more acute angle, so it's probably even tighter than it was. But one thing you will notice is, again, it's quite a meanderingly up and down hills with little rises and little crests, and it does make it quite interesting. Now, Druids, which you're just approaching, is a double apex. So you want to clip the first one, run a little bit out, and then clip the second one, and then watch out for the fact you are then going over this little brow as you are trying to get the power down, and in the wrong circumstances that's very dodgy. If you get it right, it's not so bad. You try and straighten it out as you go over it, but if you're getting it really well loaded up over that, you will find the back ends all over the place. It's probably even worse than a motorcycle. Then again, another slightly undulating straight. I don't think this one's actually got a name. Then Lodge corner, possibly due to the fact there's a lodge on the left. And again, this is one of these, it's got a bit of positive camber at this point. Then as you come out, you start to drop over this hill. So as you drop down, of course, gravity's not your friend anymore, and you'll find the back end's trying to go coming out there, or the front end, depending upon how you got your car loaded up. Deer leap, which on a motorcycle really is a bit of a leap. And if we go in car, we'll have a bit of a couple of slightly faster laps. Trying to decide where to turn in here is a bit of a pain. It's actually a strange little corner, because it initially looks like it's not so tight, and then it tightens up. So it's quite easy to get it wrong, and you probably want to take a shed load of curbing. This one is dropping downhill as you're turning in, so again, cascades is a bit of a nightmare. Don't run too wide over the curb, because you'll be on the grass and you'll be losing grip, hand over fist, bumpy old straight. This, probably use that as a bit of a turning reference. depend upon how much downforce you got and how much grip you might or you might not be able to take island flat. Nicely banked and very lumpy corner, as you can hear from the rattling and the banging. You have to be a bit careful coming out. If you get it wrong, you'll be losing the camber in just the place where you want to carry on keeping it. You'll find there's markers everywhere for possible turning points. Nasty sausage on that side, no sausage this side, so you can probably get away with cutting that a bit. Again, no sausage on that side, so again you can cut that a bit. I'm not sure how much you can cut, but as much as possible probably. Braking, a little bit of an arse to work out where to brake there, because there's not that many reference points. Again, there's a bit of a sausage on that corner, so watch that, you'll get bounced off it. This is Knickerbrook, and as you can see that's quite tight, and again it feels very off camber as you come out, so it's quite easy to drift wide coming out of there. Again, shouldn't have any problems over the crest because it's nominally flattish, so you should have a bit of downforce. Here again you're trying to spot that particular curb. Now you can run quite tight on that, but you might want to run a bit wider. You can see you're possibly going to have a problem coming over that crest. We'll try and build up a little bit more speed. Remember to change gear occasionally. I like to hug the inside as much as possible and then try and get a bit of straightness out of the wheel before you get on the power too much as you're dropping down, to avoid the back end going out. But if you get it wrong, or if you're too abreast, you will find yourself in potentially deep shit. Very late turning for that because of the shape of the corner. If you look at the track map, you'll see that it starts to go and then it tightens up a lot. Again, this is quite a tricky corner due to the fact you're turning in on a downward slope. Once you get the hang of it, I tend to keep a fairly conservative line through there. I did have to back off a bit there because I've got still wonderfully underinflated front tyres, which don't help at all. Again, lump yourself, and you can see if you get too far out there, you're starting to lose camber as you're trying to load up, and you will find yourself in deep trouble. So chop as much as possible. You can see where you'll be running wide coming out the chicane. At least they haven't put a load of tyres and stacked a load of tyres on the inside of the Fulston chicane, which is good because they can be a bloody nightmare, although they have put some there. As you can see, you're actually dropping downhill slightly coming into that, so it's very, very easy to run wide coming out of there. The imperative to get on the throttle as soon as possible. You do have to be patient. Ooh, I think I caught the grass a little bit there. That's probably scarier than it looks, Druids. And again, you can get a load of, because you almost got positive camber as you going through the apex, you think you can carry even more speed through there, but you do get screwed by the exit, so no idea how fast a lap that would have been. It's alright, but interesting circuit. Really nice to drive. It's definitely a driver circuit. Racing on it. I don't know if I can get on the outside here, and if I do an F7 and just pop up here, try and get up. It probably doesn't look quite so bad there. I mean, when you're driving around, it looks like a really narrow circuit. I don't know whether they've actually you'd probably get 5 abreast there. What are you talking about, man? Well, I don't know if it's slightly narrower further round, but this is where the circuit originally went, across here, around there, and sort of joined up here and up Clay Hill. And as you can see, this is Knickerbrook, as it would have been originally. You're coming along here and you would be obviously steaming downhill at a hell of a rate of knots as you got there, so that's quite a scary little corner. Obviously now you're coming through the Hizzy chicane, and it's a lot tighter, but a bit slower. And apparently called Knickerbrook because a pair of ladies' knickers were found in the brook when they were putting some explosive to blow out some tree stumps back in 1951 or whenever it was. So you learn something weird every day. So that's Oulton Park. Again, lovely circuit to drive. I love driving around it. Racing around it is a bit more of a pain because it is quite tight. It's very difficult to overtake on. And last but definitely not least is my local circuit, which is Snetterton. As I said, Snetterton. Oh god, my voice is going again. That's right, I'm going to have to get another cup of coffee. Snetterton, I have been round it more times than I care to think about, but not in this configuration. I've literally never driven around it in this configuration, for real. I will just go here because I can't remember the name of the bloody... They've renamed all the corners and I can't remember them. I think I will just put a bit of extra air in the tyres. I think I'll put about 1.5. And about 2. Should be about right. That'll probably do. Yeah. Really ought to have a look around the garage. This looks reasonable. Now, I really ought to go around and have a look at all the signs and see how accurate they are. I did notice the other day when I was having a quick look around that I don't know if I fixed it. Or the back of the scrutineering bay, this building here, ahead of us on the right here. It's definitely not right. There's some glass over there that should be like windows of an office. And they're rather wrong. So, whatever.
Low tire pressure, stay away from curves.
Now, all the big mounds, these are all built up when MSV took over and they redesigned the circuit and everything to give better viewing areas. They really have done a great job around Snetterton making it a much better viewer's circuit. It's quite flat, so it's not a great viewing circuit necessarily. Same as Silverstone, a lot of people complain about that, not having great views. I mean, Donington Park, you can go to Donington Park, you can stand up on the bank in up Craner curves and you can see like all the way down Craner, all the way around to Starties and see a fairly goodly amount of the racetrack. They put the tree in. Straight ahead of us is the man tree, as it's called. The old man has been around for a while. He's gone. He's dead. He died. Was it last year? He's been taken away. The tree is no more. There he is. He's waving at us. Wave. Now, when I raced here, this didn't exist. This corner was not here. Originally, the circuit was an airfield, and in 1951, was it 51? I did write it down just to be sure. Yeah, 51. They basically used a perimeter track, or part of the perimeter track, to create the circuit. And it was horrendously fast, like Silverstone is, which is another airfield circuit, like Thruxton is, which is another airfield-based circuit. All the old airfield circuits, was it Croft as well, was an airfield circuit, all had one thing in common. They were all massively fast, because they didn't have huge corners. But they used the long circuit up until 1980, I think it was. But they did make various modifications when Russell's Bend, which was after Coromont and start finish straight, was added, and then that was eased a bit. I made it too tight initially, and then I eased it a bit. When I raced there, we didn't use the long circuit. I only ever used the short circuit. The long circuit was potentially a bit dodgy by that point. It wasn't used enough. Ended up with people complaining. Namely, Phil Reed complained quite a bit about the amount of shite on the circuit the last time he was here, which was been sometime in the 70s for... was that the Race of Aces it was there? I can't remember now. I was there, I was spectating, but it was a long time ago. So yeah, Phil complained. Justifiably so. If there's a load of shit on the circuit, the last thing you want to do is be riding a motorcycle around it. But that was more or less the death knell. So I think it was 1980 was when they basically said no, not anymore. But I don't remember it being used much past the late 70s. I'm not even sure they were using it in 77. I definitely came here in 77, 78 and watched some racing, but I think the majority of it is still on the short circuit. Now, a lot of the infield corners are based on corners from other circuits around the world. The hairpin, which is called the Montreal, I was going to call it the Melbourne, the Montreal hairpin. It's called the Montreal hairpin, because they had a poll and people decided what they want to call it, but mostly because it's actually modelled on the hairpin at Montreal. A lot of the other corners are modelled on other things at various places. I was a little upset that they did rename one or two of the corners. I think this is Williams? Yeah, Williams. There's some corners you're going, yeah, I can justify calling it that, but there's some you're thinking, Bleh. I mean, they obviously had some context to the names of the corners when they originally named them, like the one on the back straight used to be called Sears. There was actually two versions of it. There was the one that went on to this straight, because this is the same as the original straight, and there was also one that went on to up to the Norwich straight. What I'll do is I'll go into fly you around mode in a while, and you can have a look. Back straight, quite long. A lot of shit on the inside there. Again, you can see where they put extra mounds in for spectating. And into the infamous S's, which is now called Brundle and Nelson. Named after Martin Brundle and Nelson Pico, I believe. Interesting braking zone. Obviously you're trying to brake and get into a tightening corner here, ready to slow yourself down to get round the right-hander, which has got a huge sausage on the edge of it. Oh, don't take that much curve on that side, it's a bit rough. The bridge that's back there used to be here, which made life quite interesting. I will post a link to the when was that, 1989? Was it 89? When they had the 25-hour of the Will Hire 25-hour race. They got some onboards from before they modified the circuit and messed it up, so you can see just how scary some of the they probably don't look quite as bad from inside a car as they did from on a motorcycle. Russell Chicane as it was, what happened is you come around Coram here, which is still called Coram, and he used to get to about, where would it have been, about here somewhere, and he'd have gone sort of more or less straight that way, and then there was a little chicane. So a little chicane, it was a big balls, fourth gear, 100 mile an hour chicane, so that was quite scary. This is a really tricky corner to get right, so easy to come in late and end up on the boondogs on the outside there. Lots of people end up in the grass, or turn in too early and take the big sausage on the inside. But oh damn, went too far again. It's looking very nice. I still think their crowds just look a bit papery, strangely. Right, let's try and pick a little bit of speed up. Russell's is actually a double apex, a bit. Russell's, Rich's, brain death. It does come over a little bit of a rise as you come out of it, so you can lose the back a little bit, but it's not too bad. A little bit of a downhill braking zone into the Montreal hairpin. Which should be quite familiar if you've been to the Montreal hairpin. This is reasonably flat and all positive cambered. Whatever it's called, I can't remember. Oggies? Yeah, no, that's Palmer's. And then Agostini, which is, I can't remember what it's modelled. This is definitely modelled after something. I can't remember for the life of me which corner it was. Hamilton's, it's a tricky little corner. And then this is Oggie's, which is tighter than you think. It's one of those, it sort of turns back on itself a bit, so. And then Williams, which you need to get a good run out of because it goes on the long straight. Now it is, I'm not sure whether there's a slight crown in the road that actually gives you a little bit of negative camber as you're on that side. I think there's a bit of a crown, it's a bit hard to tell. But it is quite easy to try and get the power on coming out of Williams and overdoing it. Now this is a tricky little corner. Choices are try and brake all the way around it, brake in about 3 zones, but you definitely need to be getting that right. Otherwise you'll be off over there. Bommel, very interesting. It feels like it's got positive camber through the middle of it, and then as you come out you're going over a rise, so you tend to find the back ends trying to get away from you. Coram as it is now is horrendous. It's so long, it goes on and on and on, and then you have to decide which one of these markers you're going to brake at. Try and stay as far right as you can, get the power down, try not to run out too far on the curb. I think the curb isn't too bad on this particular implementation of it. Project Cars, the curb around there was like you'd get stuck the other side of it, you were dead. So let's pick the speed up a little bit. You get a really good load in, but then it feels like it's going a little bit over a brow. Again, very, very slightly downhill there, braking, so you can actually run a bit of curve on the outside there. Don't get too greedy though. This is a bit of a strange corner. It's one of those, I can't really decide what to do with it, but get around it basically. Agostini, you probably want to try and get a little bit of a late apex on it, as you've got a bit of a straight coming out of it. Depending upon what you're in, you might be able to take that flat, or you might not. This is definitely a nasty little bend. Again, well, it doesn't feel too bad in this. But like I said, it's quite easy to drift a bit wide coming out of Williams on the back straight, and what you want to be doing is getting as much throttle on as early as possible to get down here for maximum speed. Brake round about the bridge. Compromise the first part to get a good exit. It's not a huge straight afterwards, but it is a straight, so try not to hit the sausage too hard. Oh, that's a horribly slow lap. With horribly still underinflated tyres. I've got no idea what a good lap round here is. In fact, I haven't even done the track medals for this one yet, which is... That is quite smooth, that curve, so you can probably run quite a lot of that and actually extend the corner a bit if you wanted to. Dead easy to outbrake yourself there. Again, quite a nice cambered curve. Whoop. And again, a nicely cambered curve. So you can actually use it to hold yourself on track a bit. Bit of grass. Luckily with a bit of... Again, there's a bit of positive camber on the curve that will hold you on the circuit a bit, but I don't know if that green bit on the outside is legal or not, but you don't want to be running too far out there. Bottom hole was quite difficult to work out where to turn in because you are going downhill again, but again there's huge about that cross weave type concrete stuff on the outside of the curve there, so you can use that. So I don't think you'd have too many problems getting well under 2 minutes around here. So basically the curves around here are all quite nicely usable. Apart from the big sausagey bits. Again, that, plenty of room to run off and use it to extend the corner. Which you find people in racing cars tend to try and do as much as humanly possible. If there's any way to make the corner bigger and wider, they'll do it, for the very simple fact that you can get around it faster. Felt like I was a bit late on the throttle there. Probably if you set your car up to rotate more, this is the default stable setup, so it's probably not going to rotate much on the... You'd probably be able to get out of Williams a bit easier, and a couple of the other corners as well, and that feels like I'm going to go wide. Oh, no. That's so deceptive, that corner. It's like... It's helping you and then it isn't helping you as it goes up and down and... And interestingly, they've still got the phone box.
Well done, mate. Your fastest lap so far.
I say interestingly because it hasn't been there for a couple of years, I'm pretty sure. It's not there anymore. Sure it's not. Right, if I... Oh, did it again. I was gonna go for an F7 and a quick up in the air, fly me to the moon, and I will... Whatever. Right, we tool off over here. At one point, Sears was about here, so he came up here and straight 90 degree, fairly quick, sort of, was it third gear, third gear on the bike, and then up there, and then there was like a second corner here, maybe a little bit further over, a bit hard to tell. With another short straight that went up here and then shot across to there, I think it is. It's quite hard to see from here because the not exactly the most. Is that it there? I think that might actually be the A11. So basically, it came across here and then down the straight here somewhere to rejoin on the circuit, sort of here-ish. And you might notice over here is they have actually implemented, I'm glad they have, the memorial to the airmen that died in the Second World War. There was actually a layout for a year that more or less went sort of across here. So the national circuit actually had a slightly less tight corner, so it's sort of this. Hang about, I'll see if I can slide the mouse down. So it went across there, it was more sort of there. Again, I'll link to the circuits info. The bomb hole has always been the same, although there used to be a stand there. And like I said, column, I don't think there's any way you can actually see anything on there anymore. Sort of went across here, and then there was a bit of a kink, and then you ended up with a, I think it was probably about there, and this was the exit of Russell Chicane. So like I said, I'll post a link to the racingcircuits.info, and I'll post a link to the Will Hire 25-hour race. No, it's 25 hours because it was the 25th anniversary of Will Hire Van Rentals, who was not a Dutch painter. It was actually Will Hire Van Rentals. So that's a quick run through. There are a load of other quality of life improvements that are worth having a look at. They've made changes so you can run combined GT4 and GT3 races with the AI in the British Championship. I don't know if it's in all of them, but definitely in the British Championship because it's a combined one. So there's some physics changes, user interface changes. You can now change things like your mirror, FOV and its position, but you have to do it via a .json file, which is a bit of a pain. It'd be better if I had a UI bit to do it, but it's there, so you can do it. All in, 3 nice circuits. I do have a bit of a liking for Snetterton. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people find it a bit flat and a bit boring, but technically it's actually quite an interesting circuit. And I think in terms of the most technically challenging circuit, it's probably Oulton Park. It's a combination of it's bumpy, it's narrow, it's got a lot of little brows and crests where you're trying to turn in, which effectively give you a lot of adverse camber and off-camber corners, and it's technically a very difficult track to get right, and it's also a very difficult track to race on, but it's a great driving track. Like a lot of places around the world, I find the same with Bathurst. I love driving around it. I don't like racing around it quite so much, but I've got to get the hang of that one because that's what I'm doing tonight. So I think that's enough waffle for me. That's God knows how long that is, 50 odd minutes, something like that. And enjoy your racing. If you want to buy it, I think it was 12 quid, but you can. If you go to CD Keys, it's 9 quid. You can get a key for it for Steam. So, worth the money? Yes, definitely. For three good tracks. Hang on a minute, I'm being shouted at. Somebody asking me if I want some hot water. Yes, I want another cup of coffee. Need more coffee. So that's the DLC pack and a few ideas on what's in the 1.7 editions. So, like I said, there's some weirdnesses with the bop changing between the sort of British bop and the other bop. So, whether or not that will make a lot of difference, I wouldn't have thought it would. I don't see why the bop would be hugely different between the two series, but there's some nice additions, some nice little quality of life stuff. Some, I don't know if anybody noticed, but down in the bottom corner there was some sort of last lap time and other bits and pieces shown at the bottom of the MFD down there. Like I said, there's changes that allow you to change your mirror, and differences in the filtering on the multiplayer. Loads of other bits and pieces. I'll also post a link to the release notes, so you can read them yourself instead of me trying to remember them and going, I can't remember them. So, but from me for now, enjoy your racing, have fun, don't crash too often, try and get them down on the tarmac, and enjoy yourself, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.